your discussion about legalizing gaming in Saipan, but the other one about your disappointment at the judge for releasing Buckingham.
Sure. Yeah. Yes. I am disappointed on his decision. I mean, he had the right to make such a decision, and I think what I'm most disappointed about is what appears to be a different standard when it comes to justice when dealing with this former Attorney General. And if any different standard was applied, one would hope that it would be a stricter standard. I mean, this was the former Attorney General for the CNMI, somebody who should have been fully aware of the laws of the CNMI and the procedure. And when he finally received that criminal summons, should have shown up to court rather than for the last 9 months run from justice.
What is it about his health that means that he has to be returned to Colorado? Or the judge, I think.
The judge cited the medical reasons as one of the main reasons for lifting the travel restrictions.
Mm-hmm.
However, even on that front, there's a little bit of disappointment from members of the public, simply because, number one, we don't know what those medical conditions are, and number two, no independent medical evaluation was ever conducted. In other words, we as a community and the judge took Buckingham on his and his doctor's word. As to the severity of those medical conditions.
Do you know what they are, though?
No, I have no idea. I can't even speculate. Yeah, it was not released to the public, and it never has been, and I don't foresee it being released. I know when I was in the court, when he was before Govendo, the prosecutor did say that he had valid arguments against those medical conditions, or those being used as a reason for him to return to Colorado. So at least the prosecutor, who was fully aware of the medical conditions being used as an excuse, did have what he believed to be strong arguments against those being used for release. Well,
there it is. I mean, if anybody knows how to, meander through the law, he would be one person who would know how to figure it out. I mean, he came back to the CNMI knowing that he wasn't going to stay there for a very long time.
One would think, yeah, especially in retrospect after watching, and we all were fully aware that was probably what was going to happen. That he had made arrangements to make sure that he could come here, clear his fugitive status, and easily return to Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I mean, there's so much speculation going throughout the community on whether or not it was fully choreographed or orchestrated. That we'll never know. There's no way to know. But I mean, even in court, while I watched the hearing, I mean, the appearance before Govendo, I sat outside after it was done, and I basically, kind of to myself and to those around me, said that after the judge took it under advisement, that he would lift the travel restrictions and let him go with no problem. It was just a gut feeling I had after watching the proceedings.
So if it's orchestrated, are you saying it's orchestrated engaging even the Superior Court Associate Judge? Is that what you're saying?
Gosh, I would have no, I wouldn't have a clear idea. It's just beyond me as far as my ability or my scope. He entered the CNMI, passed through the ports with no problem. Some people did see him, did identify him as Buckingham, and however, he was still allowed to come through our ports without being stopped or detained or held. He walked into court, posted his bail, checked into the Hyatt on the same day, spent a few days in the CNMI, and is now probably back in Colorado.
Yeah,
like nothing ever happened.
It just sounds like if this had happened to any other person, there would have been a whole lot of other red tape before you got to a room at the Hyatt.
I would think so. I mean, if I ran from a court order and I was deemed a fugitive justice and then I returned to the island, I would think it would be very difficult for me not to spend at least an hour in jail.
But at the same time, wouldn't you agree that regardless of how this turned out right now, and not to the satisfaction of people who want, his head served on a silver platter, they got the prize. You know what I mean? They got the prize. So the case will be adjudicated through the courts. He does have a court date. It's not like they let him go and said, don't call us, we'll call you when we're ready. He had to post a pretty big, $50,000 cash bill. I don't know anybody who has that kind of dispensable income that wouldn't mind losing it. Well, I suppose if you 50 grand is 50 grand.
He's pretty much lost it for the next year or whatever it might take for the thing to get to trial and go. But you're right. I mean, it was a hefty bail. I think the concerns that I'm hearing more in the community, and one that concerns me the most is what appears to be somewhat of a double standard. Most, if not all, every person who posts bail here in the CNMI is subject to those travel restrictions, and lifting them is not something that's done easily. And in this case, it seems like it may have been, or at least, and in this case, you're talking about somebody that was a flight risk. I think everybody's pretty clear that there's no question that he did fly from justice. In this case specifically, and so I guess that was the big concern.
It is. I'm sure it is. On its face, it does look like that. I'm wondering for the greater cause, which is, to blow wide open such a huge case that fetches some pretty high up officials of the CNMI government. That certain conditions were probably, I don't know if a deal was cut, or certain conditions or allowances were made so as to make sure that they got to the center of this big, enormous crime that managed to take down, almost take down a government.
Yeah, no, most definitely.
Yeah, it's the bigger prizes they got Buckingham. Now, how much easier is it to get Governor Fitial back on the ground?
Yeah, I know they were looking into perhaps changing the arrest warrant that was changed to a penal summons for Fitial back to an arrest warrant. I don't know if this latest fiasco with Buckingham will have any bearing
or jumpstart anything
with that.
Yeah, whether it has the potential to jumpstart anything. Well,
and you're absolutely right. It is a success for the CNMI that Buckingham did come back out, and he did stand before the Superior Court judge, and a trial has been set. And so what we as a public will do is now collectively hold our breaths and wait for his return. It'll be January of next year, and his trial, which will be in early February. That's if everything goes as planned. His attorney has been saying if it goes to trial. So we don't know if there might be something else up his sleeve.
Well, his attorney would say that. I mean, his attorney is going to fight.
He might be able to avoid a trial altogether.
Yeah, I mean that's that, and he would say something like that.
Sure.
Because that's the last thing he wants to see.
His clients, exactly.
Yeah. So tell me about this. What are you fighting on now, Mister? You're going for legalizing the casino gaming, or not legalizing it? What's going on up there?
Oh gosh, that's been a recurring kind of fight in the CNMI for a large number of those in the public. There's been a push for many years to try and get by a select few to legalize casino gambling in Saipan, on the island of Saipan.
Right.
Currently, it's legal on Tinian for up to 5 casino license holders. We've only had 1, and it's legal on Rhoda. And so those 2 islands can do casino gambling legally. It was legalized through public initiatives on both islands. And so the voters decided they wanted it, and they went to the polls, and they voted in favor of it. Here in Saipan, at least twice, it's been put on the ballot, and both times it's been soundly rejected by the people of Saipan. Oh,
yeah. Welcome to our default issue on Guam. That's kind of one of our default, especially around election time. This is like our go-to topic. But, we're coming up, surprisingly, in a midterm argument ourselves about legalizing, or this backdoor, a seemingly backdoor effort to legalize gaming and gaming machines on Guam through the introduction of a bill to use the proceeds of the taxes or fees on these gaming machines to bail out the hospital of its debt.
I've heard of that.
Yeah,
I've heard of that, and it's eerily similar to what they're doing here.
So what are they doing over there? Who are the players in this fight that's been for it all these years?
Well, what happened now is it seems like I don't know if it's still the same players or if it's somebody new. I kind of lost track of it for a while, but it's back on the radar. And basically what they're doing is the legislature is going to try and put a bill on the floor today, which will outright legalize casino gambling on the island of Saipan just through the passage of the bill and enactment into law. And a big portion of the proceeds from that bills, the revenues hopefully generated from that bill, will go to our ailing retirement fund. And so they're using the same way that Guam's using the hospital, they would be using the retirement fund here as the...
Your collapsed retirement fund.
Oh my, yeah, the collapsing retirement fund, exactly.
Well, okay, well, geez, we got, as far apart as we are, we have a lot of the same issues that run parallel every once in a while. We connect on an issue, and that's an interesting one. It sounds like it's no different than the fight here, although, like you said, I mean, around you, you've got close neighbors where it's legal, so it's really pretty much, right there in your backyard.
True, and I think that some of the arguments that people are hearing is, number one, to put it on the ballot if they really want to give it another shot, let the people decide, and the other argument is it's already legal on 2 of our 3 main islands. Give them a chance. If it was going to be a profitable industry for this region, there would be nothing stopping it from being profitable in Tinian or Rota. All the arguments against why it wouldn't be kind of fall on deaf ears once you start throwing out things like a $300 million investor or a $500 million investor.
Yeah.
And so, that's where that stands.
Well, here's the thing. If you put it up to the people, you're putting it up to the people with a pretty personal interest in saving the retirement fund. You would probably find more people who might jump ship because now that it's dealing with their own pocketbooks.
Well, what you would have to do is you would have to convince the people that revenues could be generated in time to save the retirement fund, and that's where it would be very, very difficult. The retirement fund's deadline date or the date of its demise is scheduled for March 2014.
Yeah.
And so even if they passed a casino bill today and they started fishing around for multi-million-dollar investors to come out here and start up a casino, and the casino got up and running, to realize any type of revenue that would have a positive effect on the retirement fund.
You don't think that that already that's lined up? Nobody pushes for legalizing casino gaming in a place where they don't have somebody already ready to take that shot.
You would think that, but again, we don't have to speculate. It's legal on Tinian and it's legal on Rota.
Right.
And both of those islands, Tinian has been in the hole as far as gambling. The one casino that does exist there has been massively in the hole in major arrears tax-wise, and employees are not getting paid, and it has not been a profit generator, a large profit generator for the CNMI.
But just for that particular island, but in Saipan, correct, you've got a whole different dynamic.
But not. Yeah. I mean, they're 3 miles away. I could basically, you could swim to Tinian if you wanted to. So if somebody really wanted a casino in this region, Tinian would be great. I mean, look at Singapore. They put it on Sentosa Island. You go to the Bahamas and Nassau. They put it on Paradise Island. There would be nothing prohibiting a large casino investor, if one was really in the wings, from setting up a large casino on Tinian, and even in China, it's on Macau. That's another island as well. A casino. I mean, a ferry out to get to Macau as well.
Yeah.
From Hong Kong.
And the retirement fund creates the urgency, and it plays on the emotions of the people whose life savings could be sunk, and they could find themselves without an income.
That's what they're hoping. Yeah, they're hoping that would be the justification, even though there's no real plan for realized revenues in time to save the fund on that front.
People are smart. We're on to you. I mean, it's you know what I mean? People, they recognize it, but it's just that whether or not they can, get deep into the psyche of people who's got vested interest in the retirement fund.
Well, I think the representatives the legislators fully realize that it would be a struggle, if not another failure, at the polls. Otherwise, it would be no problem for them to simply pass a legislative initiative and hold a special election.
Yeah.
And that would get that would take any heat off of them from people that do believe that it's not what the people want.
Okay.
And so if they really thought that was a viable option, nothing would stop them from doing it.
The headaches of this conversation, I tell you. I know it's painful to hear it all the time. All right, well, Glenn, I'll let you go.
It's interesting to watch.
Yeah, it is. It is. If anything, it's got all the interest of that. Okay, Glenn, as usual, thank you for being available to us. Your retention check is in the mail.
Awesome.
All right.
Take care.
All right, take care.
Call anytime.
All right, thanks. I appreciate that.